Hello, welcome to Shambhavi Spectrum Marketing Magic Industry Insights. And our guest today here is Mr. Satish Gadge, who is working with S3 Technologies, and he's the Business Development Manager. Thank you so much, Satish, for finding the time and energy to spend some time with us, especially considering that it's the last week of the year, and I'm sure there are so many things which you want to wrap up before the official vacation kind starts off. Let us start with a little bit. Tell me about yourself, please, to start with.
Hi, good evening, Doctor. It's really wonderful to be associated with you. Myself, I have been with S3 Technologies for now 5 years. As an individual, I have been working in the retail industry for 20 years now. Primarily, I'm involved more into providing retail security and software solutions for the retailers across in this region. All the years that I have been working, I have predominantly worked more in UAE and the other GCC countries, and a few years back in India as an IT consultant.
Okay, so that means from IT you moved on to security, and I think the cyber security, that is where the whole world is moving to. Can you tell me one thing which has been common throughout your journey?
See, even when I say IT consultant, I was predominantly involved into automating processes, which we are, when I say security and IT solution in retail, a lot of the IT solutions in retail is to automate the day-to-day processes that everybody is involved. Like a simple example, if I have to, like a day household example, let's put it on, we have building blocks for our kids. Let's say if I have to count 1,000 building blocks, it's a mundane task. Like that for a retailer, it's a humongous task to count their inventory. There are technologies available which makes their work much more faster, easier, less intensive in terms of manpower. So that's what we are focused on. So that's a common connect between what I have been doing before to now.
So making human job easier is one of the things which has been common. And how does your educational background reflect on what you're doing now? How did you get into this IT as a consultant?
Yeah, by qualification, I'm a software engineer. So I started my career as a programmer. So that actually helps, I believe, 20 years down the line, I believe probably it gives you a good landscape to look at what you're doing, how you're doing, why it is done. Maybe at this stage now, probably my hands are not dirty on doing programming at this juncture, but you understand it much more better way, and you're able to take the solution or product to a customer to their liking.
Do you miss getting your hands dirty with work?
Definitely. I always enjoy being with the team and working hands-on.
What about the fact that new programs are coming all the time? And, so do you have to keep yourself upskilled on those programs as well? Or is it enough just to be able managing a team who can do that for you?
I think the managing a team is much more better because we have to leave certain things to the experts who are specialized in their own new technologies that have evolved, instead of getting into each of these nitty-gritties, which becomes too complex to handle sometimes.
Can you tell us more about the organization and what do you do? Which regions are you, and what is the core competency of the organization?
Yep. S3 Technologies, we are headquartered in Dubai. We have offices in India and which is an offshore development center for us, as well as we have an office in Qatar. We are primarily a retail solution-oriented company focused primarily on the retail vertical. And in terms of solutions, what we do is we do, as I mentioned before, retail security is one aspect. Apart from the retail security, we also do software, and we call it as analytics solution. It's primarily how do you engage with customers, what is their behavior pattern, how do you assess the data, and what analysis can be done on that data, which is much more important. A classic example is when a customer walks into a retail store, any retailer would want a customer to buy as much as maximal. His basket size should be the maximum best possible for him. But how does he ensure that that particular customer is attracted to his store or attracted to the products that he is selling? So these are the kind of things that today technology is helping a retailer to look into it. They get more data. There are a lot of sensors. Simpler. I will try to keep it much more simpler for easy understanding. There are host of sensors available today which can track what Dr. Shambhavi is today's feeling like. Is she happy, or is she frowning, or is she angry? So that I can correspond to response to what product you're looking at. You're looking at a product, what is your response? So like this is just one example which I mentioned. So there are host of sensors across the store which can get in all this data. But this data, if we offer to somebody, doesn't make any sense. So the analytics part pick up all this data, and then it helps a retailer to look into and see how effective are their marketing campaigns. I can do a smart marketing campaign across all social media, radio, print, digital media, everywhere. But is it actually effective in the store? That's where the actual business is. So those can be measured, and I can take immediate corrective actions because these data are available real time. So you can look at the data and analyze, seeing is the customer flow as per my marketing events happening in, or what is the response once they walk into the store, what are they doing within the store. So that's what is customer engagement solutions. And there are a host of technologies available in every aspect, right from the point of entry to each engagement that they do within the store. So this is what we do primarily.
So I'm very glad you brought this up, because most of the time, whenever we say about anything about marketing, it's, it becomes a little individual compartmentalized, like social media and website is separate. And then, but ultimately, like you said, till the call to action happens and the person takes the action, there is nothing, there is no point of this whole exercise unless it comes to a culmination with a sale which is taking place. And you're saying that, yes, by the way, I'm a great fan of Martin Lindstrom, who's into, who's been doing a lot of research on neuromarketing. And so I've also been following all these things. And apart from that, in market research, also we look into all these things as neuromarketing. So that, and we understand, we are in a time now when we know that when we enter not only into a shop, anywhere when you step out of the house, whether you're on the road or whether, in any mall or anywhere, there is a camera and you're being watched. But specifically when you go into a store and like you said, there are sensors and then, how does privacy figure in all this then?
Okay, very good question, Doctor. See, generally, most of these solutions or products that are available today are predominantly developed or designed from an architecture viewpoint, either from an European manufacturer or a US manufacturer, where GDPR is given the highest, most important in terms of the design element. Second is most of
these. Sorry to interrupt you. Please, could you just elaborate on what is GDPR?
In European regulations, the individual privacy, which you are mentioning, is very, very, very critical. So without the user consent, I'm not able to, I should not be monitoring you. So that's why if you go in any of the stores, even here, it is very common practice that you will have a nameplate written that you are being monitored, your CCTV surveillance is on, and so that's those are the things that you as an individual, it's up to you whether you want to walk into a facility which is being monitored or not. So GDPR primarily says that your personal security is guaranteed by the government. So any monitoring by these sensors within a retail facility, because the retail facility is mine, so I can do whatever I want in terms of monitoring. When we say the analytics or all these sensors, what it does, once you walk into your store, today the sensors are available which can recognize demographics, meaning it can recognize whether you are a woman, man, your age as well. In terms of that, is based on algorithms again. How accurate is another subject. Let's not talk about it now. Right. But these are the parameters that are being monitored. what is important in your context of question is because of privacy, all what these systems store is only metadata. They don't store you as an image or a picture. They only store metadata, and these metadata are used in the algorithms to compute based on the algorithm's design. Like if I get this set of data, it is resembles to a woman. If it comes with ABC, it resembles to a girl who is between this age gap. So it works that way generally.
So it is not specific to me. And then when you analyze it, you probably know that, okay, 5 women between the age of this age walked in, or 5 men or 5 boys or whatever. So
Exactly.
What you're saying essentially is that it is not identifying me as an individual. So my details are not being, shared by anyone, because long time back there are always a lot of rumors about privacy concerns, and some time back they said no, even if you just walk, if you are standing in the pedestrian crossing and you don't cross properly, they can identify through your Emirates ID through that, and you will be fine.
See,
these are like honest concerns. Whoever is trying to scare the person into following the ground rules, I fully appreciate. But saying such things, so then one does think, will this be the future? Will this be in future that you will be identified like this? Will it happen?
But there is available. You mentioned a good point. Today, technology is available to recognize a person by facial recognition, but this is used in border security. It's used in airports. It would not be used probably in a pedestrian crossing, because investing such huge technology or high cost technology at that point, where it's not a security risk, so nobody would invest that kind of a technology in that location probably.
So one of the things which you did mention is based on customers. So would you say that your solutions are customer centric rather than the retailer centric, or the centric to the person who's offering this?
Yes, that's true. See, when we say solution, it is always when a customized. It cannot be a fixed one mold for all customers, because each customer operational would be different. How he measures his products are different. How he responds to customer requests are different. So these are tailor-made solutions primarily based on what they would want to measure, how they want to measure, and what is their requirement in terms of outcome. So it's based on these metrics. This solution is designed accordingly.
Okay, so let us look at some things like when you are selling the different solutions. Mostly you've spoken about security, and the security with so that there is no stealing or thrifting, which is anything which is taking place. Nothing leaves out of the store.
Yep.
Plus, we usually, this is a very typical question which I would ask students and say, okay, just within what is the internal data which one can use? So typically the scanner and the barcode, and those are the kind of answers they'll come up with. And then they will say, then we can know our inventory. Is there something else also which people can see from their internal data?
Yes, today what has happened is, and it's been widely now adopted and being used because commercially the technology is becoming cheaper. Apart from the barcode, now next generation we call it as RFID. So what happens with RFID is each individual product gets an identification. So in the other way you mentioned, like when we are doing analysis, we are not recording this as Shambhavi and it's just a woman in this age group. But when we talk of product which is tagged with an RFID tag, you can individually identify each of the product. So that makes life of the retailer or life of the person who wants to track the product much more simpler, because they exactly know when the product had arrived within their facility, how long it has aged, and when it was sold, who had bought it. So the complete life history of the product can be tracked, because each product is a unique product within. Otherwise, with a barcode, a simple example is every product has the same barcode, product category. So there is no differentiation between whether you may have differentiation that there are only 50 of these products sold. Within that, you will have multiple SKU sizes and other things. So all those are not uniquely tracked with a barcode.
Oh, but RFID does that for you.
RFID does that, and it's much more helpful because of technology to automate and to make the process faster.
So it's interesting because in 2009, I think it was the first RFID technology conference which was held in Dubai. And I actually attended that as a guest. I had written to the person and I said, can I attend? Because I was trying to do some research for my PhD at that time. And it was my PhD was based on fruits and vegetables. And interesting that at that time when they spoke about RFID tag and that when you come back home, actually that the tag, it should become inactive because otherwise it can track you where you are going. So there was, again, like you mentioned in EU, they are very particular about it that the minute you leave the store, the tag becomes inactive so that there is no privacy concern on that. And we've been talking about these privacy concerns for so long now that I think now it's become just another coffee table topic wherever we are. So coming to S3 Technologies, what kind of, how do you promote yourselves as an organization?
Primarily we are now looking at 2021 to get into more social media and other avenues of the latest generation avenues. But otherwise, it has been so far the traditional means. Our team are connected directly with the retailers. The best that we do is we have customer focused emailers that it is prepared on a monthly and a quarterly basis. So those are sent to a specific set of customers, and based on, because it is sent to a specific, so if I send an email to Shambhavi, I know what is the content of the email and to whom I'm sending. So we also have an idea what would be the time gap, what kind of response we may get, or it was just an introduction email, so we'll have to do our set of follow-up practices. So each customer, whomever we are sending this, we put them into certain brackets, and then accordingly the team carries forward their follow-up action.
So it is a typical sales funnel with lead, and it's a typical system like that. And what would you say is normally a lead time from, like you said, an introduction mail to culmination where there is a positive action taken by the customer, and then the implementation of it?
We think 4 to 6 weeks is a good time frame to gauge the interest of any customer. If what is our assessment of having worked with this market, in this market, if we are not able to get the attraction of the customer into 4 to 6 weeks, probably the approach, we'll have to look at the approach or person or the product or content, whatever. So otherwise it becomes difficult that you get attention after that time frame.
So you mentioned social media, that you're planning soon to be more active on it. Do you believe that your customers are there on the social media? And if so, which are those platforms where you're likely to focus?
Today it is difficult to say that people are not associated with social media. Everybody, in whatever way, whether it's for business or personal, people are exposed to social media. That's for sure. The more the thought process that we have currently in the organization is, one is to make our websites much more interactive and much more updated, constantly updated, rather than we build a website probably 4 or 5 years down the line, and then it goes on till there is a major ramp up or a major change. So these are constant. So we are looking at a person internally to look at these things and what is happening in the market, what changes are required. So the 2020 pandemic has given all of us a time frame window where we were able to put in thought into things which in a normal circumstances we didn't probably thought that we don't have time for this.
I agree with you. I think all of us have spent time on reflection. You've had time to reflect on yourself, and as an organization, everybody's done this, I think. And I think in some ways that's what, like the speed with which we were going, we've kind of taken a little pause there. I wouldn't say stop, but pause there. So would you say that you do push marketing or pull marketing?
I would say we would do both.
You do both?
Yeah, we do both, because both are important. On my personal note as well, I think both are important. You cannot have one way approach to win a customer.
Is that also because of your industry or the product specific that you have, that you cannot really depend only on either one of them?
Yes, I would say that as well. But today, because of the nature of customers, nature of products, and the product availability, whichever is the product, availability today of information, availability of solution, availability of product in the market is immense. So unless you are known to your target customer in a good way, it's very difficult to get hold of them.
So do you track customer lifetime value, any metrics like that?
Yes, not in the same sense as you mentioned lifetime value, but each customer, we have something called as account planning for each customer in a traditional way. So we have categories among the customers. We have corporate customers who have been with us and for very long time, and they hold prestigious projects for us, as well as they require certain skill set to be handled, and they have certain KPIs to be managed. So like this, we have multiple classification within the organization wherein customers are put into that, and they are tracked on a quarterly basis, because beginning of the year, like now we are working in the process of what we would do for the next year. So every quarterly we look at how we have managed, or what is our prediction, how is it going forward on that.
So you have tiers of customers, like,
Yes.
various tiers. Typically, you're like how a loyalty, any other program would have. Maybe the turnaround is a little slower out here. So
True.
one question which I'd asked, which I think we got a little distracted, was you said 4 to 6 weeks to get the customer and say yes onto it. How much time for the implementation?
We have varied set of products within our offering. You will not believe some of our offering could happen within a day because there is
It's ready.
ready off the shelf product. So somebody, you need a product. If I have it available, it's across right in the call transaction happens. But we have other products which are solutions. Like I will tell you a classic case. We worked on a project for a year and a half.
Okay.
Then it materialized. So that's his scape, complete landscape of what we offer. So you have customers whom we can do, but 6-week window, what I have mentioned is to get to know a customer.
So would you say you're a B2B, or do you do B2C also?
We do B2B only, major. We don't do B2C.
Okay. And do you take part in trade shows and exhibitions and things like that?
Yes, we do.
Local, international? Of course, you have offices also international. Is there
Currently,
something specific like you wouldn't miss? Like for every IT, GITEX is the place to be. Like that, do you have anything which you would not miss?
Currently, we are doing more participation in those spheres, because putting up a show in any of the retail, specifically, we are doing much more into retail focus. So retail specific platforms are much smaller here in this region. So we attend quite a lot of local events as well as global events across, whether it is in Europe or in Far East. We do attend quite a lot of retail events to be update about what solutions are latest, what products and other competitive informations.
So coming a little bit to your personal life, if in another life you were not doing this, what would you actually be doing if you were not a business development manager? Do you see yourself as doing something else? What would you be doing?
I have two, I think, wish list that I have. One is to be a teacher.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah, and another is to be a farmer.
Very nice.
It's completely different of it, but that's what.
So is that a retirement plan, or is it that it can happen anytime?
It can happen anytime.
Okay, great. Any other hobbies you have which you pursue? What kind of books do you read? Anything specific which you would like to share with my audience?
I read primarily books from little bit spiritual. Nowadays, we are following it up. Mr. Jaggi Vasudev is one person whom I follow quite a lot. So I'm reading one of his books now, as well as I'm a big fan of Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So
Abdul
I've
Kalam.
read almost all of his books. So that's something which keeps one motivated.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very true. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, I think as a whole country, he motivated every person, and he still, though he's passed on, he still continues to do that. So I also have great respect for. And any other hobbies that you have which you pursue, and or some, you said farming. So do you do gardening now?
Yes, I do quite a lot. I have a garden in my balcony, as well as I have some space on the ground floor parking. So I have asked my building guys to use that as well.
Very nice. Very nice. So, for budding marketers, would you like to share something, or tell them something what they should be looking out for budding? This is usually a teacher marketing subject, but you can have that for any students. What do you think they should be looking at? Technology is like, from our times we used to have learned. I remember in my CVs, learned MS Word and PowerPoint, and or put bracket self-learned. Now it's understood that you should have known this, otherwise you're like out of the league. There's no place for you out here. So is there something which you think that the budding marketers next 5-10 years they should be looking at, something which is what the future will hold for them?
See, one thing is for sure, as you rightly pointed out, technology is something which all of the new millennials are very much aware of. So they will be aware of, because they are exposed to technology. They will be aware of, but especially person to person connect. So people have to interact, because that's probably something which is waning currently, I feel. There are multiple modes of communication. Your communication is through WhatsApp, through different social media channels, or email. And the quality of conversation is diminishing in a way, I believe. So, especially for a startup marketing people, the classic example is the people who used to do cold calling as a first job, and there has been multiple companies who have been torchbearer in that segment. I have quite a lot of friends who had started their journey through that channel. They say even to date, after 25-30 years of their experience, even today they remember how they interacted with the first person,
Yes.
how they used their techniques. So this is very difficult. Whichever book or whatever we do, that's just theoretical knowledge. Once you experience it yourself, so I think that's something which everybody can try out. Reach out, whatever you want to sell. You want to sell technology, you want to sell solution, you want to sell art, you can sell anything. But reach out and practice that.
I know that's a good note to finish on. That people may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So
Yes.
definitely, that's thank you so much for spending your time. And once again, I really appreciate. What I'll do is I'll share the link of the organization in the channel in the YouTube one, and please do follow up. And thank you so much. And we'll again once more, maybe when you've done, like you said, you wanted to do your website and stuff, maybe we'll have another discussion about these at that time. Thank you very much, Satish, for your time.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you very much.